Hi guys, welcome to Delaware Studios. In this tutorial, we'll be integrating a wish list or call it favorite list into the fragrance shopping cart system. If you're hitting this playlist for the first time, I would implore you to check out the beginning of this app from this link and join us afterwards. To have a wish list or favorite list in this app, we'll be integrating a star or art icon to each item details toolbar, in which a click on this icon adds the particular metadata to the wish list, while a one more click of that same icon removes the item from the wish list. We'll make sure that each selected item state is preserved, i.e., if a particular item has been selected to the wish list, the users could see that visibly on the state of the art or star icon, even if the app is closed and reopened. I'll be walking you through on how this logic is achieved in this application. So let's get started. Right here in Android Studio, I still have the source file of the fragrance cart from the GitHub. You can get that from previous tutorials. I'll be heading straight to the build Gradle, and let's see the integration we had. We included a favorite button, which is from GitHub, and this is a library which is very useful and actually systematically integrates the favorite icon into any layout in Android. So you sync Gradle and set that rolling. From here, I'll be heading straight to the layout, where we have the fragrance details, which is the major aspect we'll be looking at. I revamped the details to actually integrate a coordinator layout and also the toolbar. So if you notice, we have the coordinator layout as the parent, and the app bar follows, which houses the toolbar. And we assign an ID to the toolbar called toolbar, and created an elevation of 4dp with a theme of theme overlay, app compact, action bar, also with a pop-up theme. So all this makes up the toolbar. If you notice, I included a layout which is called the fragrance details layout that houses the items needed, which is the image view, the text description, the rating bar, the table layout that actually shows the price and the quantity, and there also triggers the button to add to cart. So we have that set up in the fragrance details layout. Right there in the menu will be including the wish list, which is actually going to be triggered in the main activity. Right there in the overflow menu, which we actually set as show as action never. This will actually lock that down to the overflow menu. From here, I'll be heading straight to the Java classes, which we'll be talking about how we actually get this working. Firstly, I get straight to the data subpackage, where we have the contract, the DB helper, the provider, and also the wish and fragrance class. Let's head straight to the fragrance contract. In the contract, we need to add some inclusion. Firstly, the content URI, which is for the wish, we add for the cart, and the content URI for the fragrance. Now we need to add for the wish. After that, we also need to add the table name for the wish table, because we're going to have a separate table that will house all the wish details, or call it the favorite details. After that, we need to declare the columns needed, the wish ID, first column, and we have other columns also stated here: the name, description, image, price, and user rating. So from here, we head straight to the DB helper, where we get to create the table of the wish. In the onCreate method, there is an inclusion here to create wish list fragrance table, where we call the wish ID, the wish name, description, image, price, user rating, with their appropriate data type: text, text, real, and integer. You execute the query, which is db execute SQL, which is the SQL create wishlist fragrance table. After that, you have that created in the DB helper. We'll be headed straight to the fragrance provider. In the fragrance provider, we have to include, firstly, the URI matcher for the content URI of the wishlist table, which we have as this, and also the URI matcher of the content URI for a single wish in the wish table. We have that stated as also. We also need to lock in the URI matcher, which is actually going to point down to the path of the table based on either a single wish or all the wish. So we have that for all the wishes. We have like all the favorites, and also for a single wish, which is with the wish with an ID. So you have that stated there. And right there in the query method, we need to also add a case for the wish, whereby the database is going to query the wish table, passing the projection, the selection, and its arguments, and also if there is a sort order. So you have that just a replica of what we had in the cart and the fragrances. We also need to query for the wish with an ID, which you have also, with a selection that takes on the ID as its parameter, and the argument will also pass the ID into the URI, and from there the query method can be run. So right there we also have that in the insert, which is a case to actually insert the wish details, which takes in the URI and the content values as the two parameters. Now in the insert wish over here, this is just a replica of the insert cart that we had up here. So you just can copy and change the table name appropriately to wish table. So you have that set up, which notify all listeners that the data has changed for the cart or for the wish content URI, that gets get the context and also get the content resolver to notify the change. So you have that set up. And now in the delete method, if you are deleting, we want to delete a particular wish or a particular favorite. So we have that set up with a wish with an ID, which is the string parameter, and the db delete triggers from the wish table, and the ID is a question mark. This is the variable we need to pass in, and also we instantiate the string, which is the argument, which is the wish ID we add here from the tax ID. So we have that set up for the delete method. Now that's cool for the content provider, and from here we have the wish method. In this method, we house the ID or the metadata of the wish table. So we actually use the cursor as the parameter, which is with the cursor object. So this constructor takes up a cursor object, and at the same time it actually extracts the column index and the value, where we have firstly the get column index from the particular column and get its appropriate data using the get int, get string, get double based on the data type you're expecting, and it actually passed that to the variable we declared here: the name, description, image URL, price, and user rating. So we have that running right there. So from here I'll be headed straight to the juicy part of this particular integration, which is the detail activity. In the detail activity, we'll get to talk about how we actually integrated the material favorite button, and actually we had to make that work. In the click, that's the first selection that actually adds that particular item metadata into the wish table. In another click, that actually deletes that particular item from the wish table, and the state of the button will be preserved, so that the users could see visibly that this particular item has been added to the wish table or has been added to the wish list. Firstly, we need to declare the fields, the material favorite button, and also the toolbar. And at the same time, we need the content values to add the metadata to the wish table. In the onCreate method, we need to instantiate the toolbar and get its ID and set the support action bar to toolbar. We need an action bar, we need a toolbar right there. And for us to have the home as up enabled to any toolbar, you have to declare it this way. You first of all call the action bar, you create an object from the action bar, and you get the support action bar trigger there. The object created is where you set the display home as up enabled to true. So from there you have a sort of back button right there in your toolbar. Now we have to call the content values. Firstly, we have the wish values to put based on the columns and the values. We have the column set up where we have the name, description, image, price, user rating. We all know that. Now where are we going to get the values from? Since we have a detail activity that houses the values, we can easily call them from where they have been declared: the fragrance name, the description, the image, the rating, and the price. So we have that set up because we've actually had that from an intent that started this activity, and we've actually gotten the intent, the extras, and we've extracted the appropriate data from the keys. So now there we save that right there into the variable we declared in the global scope. So from there, that's where we could actually get those values. These values must not be null because we're actually saving that to the wish database. But we have to trigger a button to make this work. And this is where we get the add wish method. Let's get to look at the way the add wish method actually works. We have this method set up, and there is an argument. If there is a method called exists, let's get to look at this method before we'll look at the implementation we had with it. This method is a boolean that takes in a string as a parameter. And what is this doing? Firstly, we have the projection, which is the columns we needed. We actually declared all columns in the wish table, and we had a selection which takes in the column wish name. That's the name of the wish or the name of the item as the first parameter. So this is going to be the selection argument, and it's actually the search term we're going to use. So now we create a query to actually run. It's better to use the query method instead of the raw query so that you'll be able to avoid the SQL injection. Now in the query, we have the wish table as the first parameter, the projection with setup, which is the columns, the selection, which is the column name from the table, and the argument, which is the search term, which is actually going to serve as what? The column name. And we have null passing, and also we had a limit of 1. So we actually want to get a count of the cursor. Now if the get count is greater than 0, definitely that particular data is saved right there in the wish table. So you have to return that as exists. But if it's just equals to 0, definitely this argument is false and it doesn't exist. So that means you've actually not add that particular item to the wish table. So this is where this logic actually tests for if this particular item we are adding are present, we've added it before or not. So that's when we have this argument stated here. If exists, based on the fragrance name as a parameter to actually check on. Definitely if it exists, it's going to run this chunk. The toolbar favorite, we instantiate that with a material favorite button, create an object from that, and we set the favorite to true. Definitely it exists, so that true we actually show a full art icon. And the color we actually pick for the button is the white, and the favorite button now is art. There's a rotation duration. This is just like an animation. That happens once you click and it actually rotates, which we had that as 400, and we created up the toolbar favorite. Now you add up the toolbar favorite to the toolbar itself. So this is actually adding it up dynamically. You have to set on favorite change listener. That is if this is clicked or not. So this is actually going to take a state of favorite, which is boolean, to actually know if it's true or false. Now if it's true, this if statement gets us to know if it's true. Probably once you change to true, you need to insert this to the content to the table, which is using the content URI, which this is actually calling the content provider insert based on the which values that would have gotten all the metadata we had earlier. Cool. Now a snack bar shows that the item has been added to the wish list. Else, definitely the favorite is false. That means you want to delete. So if it's probably the favorite is true already and you need to delete. So this triggers the content resolver delete method. How do they get the ID? You only get the ID from the string ID we had, which is actually from the intent we get from here, because we actually had an ID from the details page. Cool. That actually sets up if the data exists right there in the fragrance in the wishlist class. Else, this is actually going to run if you've not added this particular item to the wish list table. So you have that set up as well, that runs the type, rotation, and so on. It's added that to the toolbar, and this time you also need to override a method called onFavoriteChange. This will actually check the state of the favorite, which is either true or false. Now if it's true, it also inserts, and if not, it deletes. So cool. From there, we'll be able to maintain the state of the particular item. So if you've actually checked on that to be added to the wish list, that is actually going to stay there. Not that once you are clicking back, it's actually going to disappear. So that is actually going to maintain the state, and we have that set up. And now in the on options item selected, we made the home, which is actually handling the home, the up enabled. This, we actually need this to work like the normal back pressed, so that it's actually going to move from each activity, not pushing you to the first activity that's actually triggered right there in the manifest. So this actually work excellent. Cool. From here, we'll get to look at the wish list itself. Now in the wish list, which will be triggered from the main activity, which we have right there in the on option item selected. Once you click on this overflow menu where we have the wish, you'll be pushed down to the wish list activity, and we have the wish list activity right there. So this is just a normal loader manager, where we implement the loader manager with a callback, because we need to make this run in the background, so it's actually not going to block the UI. And you need to override three methods: the onCreate loader, the onload finish, and the onloader reset. In the onCreate loader, we have the projection right there called, and in this loader we execute the content provider query method on a background thread. So this time it takes in the URI of the content URI, which this is actually going to run the query to actually select all item added to the wish list. And on node finish, this is actually going to swap the cursor to the wish adapter. We need an adapter to bind up data. On loader reset, it actually sets the swap cursor to null. So that is actually very simple to go through, because we have a recycler view that is actually going to populate the list, and we are actually using the activity made. We are not replicating an activity, since we want the layout to look like the activity made. And now we also check for the rotation and so on. And the only difference is we are creating a wish adapter, and this adapter actually sets that to the recycler view. And you also need to get the loader init loader, loader manager init loader. This is very important. This triggers the loader manager. From here, let's get to look at the adapter. This adapter binds up the data and shows the grids gracefully. So firstly, we extend the recycler view adapter and you set the data cursor, the context and ID. We have a class, an inner class called the viewer that extends the recycler view viewer. And we have the text view, the name, the user rating, description, price, thumbnail, and so on. Also have the viewer here, which is a constructor, and here we actually call on the get item position, which is actually gotten from this wish method that's passing the cursor as a parameter. We have it here so that we'll be able to get the item position and get the particular value for each column, so that we'll be able to push that to the detail activity. It's actually called the detail activity. So it's actually worked like the fragrance adapter. And now let's get to look at the way we bind data. We have the wish adapter that calls on the fragrance card. We are not creating any other card layout. This is actually using the main activity fragrance card. And the unbind viewer, just the way we bind the data to the main activity. We're also binding this to the wish list adapter. So here we have the data cursor that gets the column index and also gets its appropriate data value based on the columns, and we have that setup. So we use glide to actually load out the image so that it's actually going to catch and at the same time give a consistent loading based on the network availability. And now the swap cursor, as we all know, this actually takes up the old cursor and replaces it with a new cursor. And at the same time, it triggers the notify data set change. Very important. And at the same time, we have the get item count to count all items in the cursor. So we'll be able to have the number of items we have right there in the cursor. So this is quite simple, and we implore you to lay hands on it. It's tricky at the same time, but once you get the logic right, once you have a content provider rolling, once you have all your logic set up, and you can easily test and get the state of the particular item. So if this item has been added to the wish list, you have it, and at the same time you should be able to delete away from the wish list. So we have that set up right there in this application. Before I finish up, we'd like to look at the manifest. The manifest is always very important, where we added up the wish list as the activity we used, the wish list activity. So you need to add this up, and we use the metadata for backward compatibility with other Android versions to actually take us back to the parent activity, which is the main activity on backlink. So this is a proper way to set up your favorite button or your wish list, as you can have it in any application. So I'll actually be showing the screencast of this tutorial, and I implore you to lay hands on the source code. Thank you guys for hanging out with me throughout this tutorial, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Have a blessed time. Bye bye for now.